Friday, January 24, Further Thought. All who have a sense of their deep soul poverty, Ellen White writes in Thoughts from the Mount of Blessing, pages 8 and 9, who feel that they have nothing good in themselves, may find righteousness and strength by looking unto Jesus. He says, "Come unto me, all ye that labour and are heavy laden," in Matthew 11:28. He bids you exchange your poverty for the riches of his grace. We are not worthy of God's love, but Christ our surety is worthy, and is abundantly able to save all who come unto him. Whatever may have been your past experience, however discouraging your present circumstances, if you will come to Jesus just as you are, weak, helpless and despairing, our compassionate Saviour will meet you a great way off, and will throw about you his arms of love and his robe of righteousness. He presents us to the Father clothed in the white raiment of his own character. He pleads before God in our behalf, saying, "I have taken the sinner's place. Look not upon this wayward child, but look at me." Does Satan plead loudly against our souls, accusing of sin and claiming us as his prey? The blood of Christ pleads with greater power. End of quote. And that brings us to our 3 discussion questions for this week. 1. Look at what inspiration above said about how, thanks to Jesus, we are presented to the Father. He presents us to the Father clothed in the white raiment of his own character. No matter how discouraged we might get at times over our faults and shortcomings, or how often we don't reflect to others the kind of love that God pours out on us, why must we always come back to the wonderful news that we are accepted by the Father because Jesus presents us to the Father clothed in the white raiment of his own character? And question 2, imagine how the mother must have felt in the case of the 2 women who came before Solomon claiming the same baby was their child. Consider again the language of emotion described in 1 Kings 3:26. Let's read that. The woman whose son was alive was deeply moved out of love for her son and said to the king, "Please, my lord, give her the living baby. Don't kill him." But the other said, "Neither I nor you shall have him. Cut him in 2. How does this shed light on the same kind of language that is used to describe God's emotions for his people in Hosea 11, verse 8? How can I give you up, Ephraim? How can I hand you over, Israel? How can I treat you like Admah? How can I make you like Zeboim? My heart is changed within me. All my compassion is aroused. And question number 3. Throughout the Gospels, we have seen that Jesus often was moved by the needs of the people. And what did he do? He acted in a way that addressed the people's needs. What are practical ways that you, as an individual, or even perhaps as a class, can meet the needs of those who need comforting?
For further reading, The Upward Look, Look, page 180, and Messages to Young People, Not Feeling But a Changed Life, pages 72 and 73.
Attacked by Drunken Men by Andrew McChesney. A drunken man accosted the 21-year-old missionary woman on a public bus and tried to hug and kiss her. As she struggled against his advances, the other passengers looked the other way until an elderly woman yelled something to the bus driver. The bus stopped, and then under the guidance of the elderly woman, several passengers threw the man off. She came over to the sobbing missionary, patted her arm, and said something that the missionary couldn't understand. This was the nightmare that Joanne Park Kim seemed to face nearly every week in Mongolia. It was the early 1990s, and she was a single American woman, serving as one of the first Seventh-day Adventist missionaries in impoverished post-communist Mongolia. On another occasion, a drunken neighbour mistook Joanne's apartment for his own. He kicked down her flimsy wooden door with his steel-toe boots and started to beat her. Joanne grabbed a broom and, screaming, fought back. It was a losing battle until Joanne used the broom to bang on the ceiling, and her fellow missionaries, a married American couple, heard from their apartment above and rushed down to rescue her. The last straw for Joanne came when she and a fellow missionary were waiting at a bus stop on the outskirts of Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia's capital. A mother had invited them to her child's first haircut, which called for a big celebration in Mongolia. Joanne was instructed to wait at the bus stop because she would never be able to find the gear home on the unmarked streets. So she and the other missionaries sat on the curb and waited for the mother to arrive. Then 4 drunken men sat beside them and tried to hug and kiss Joanne. Joanne and the other missionary moved away, but the men followed. Everyone at the crowded bus stop looked away. The men dragged the women to a deserted alley. Joanne screamed and kicked and fought back, but she was no match for the 4 men. Then the men threw the women onto the ground. Joanne thought it was the end. Suddenly the men's faces turned pale. They turned and ran away. Joanne looked around to see who had come to save them. No one was there. At that moment, Joanne knew that the men must have seen an angel. This mission story offers an inside look at American missionary Joanne Park Kim, who helped start the Seventh-day Adventist work in post-communist Mongolia and continues to serve as a missionary there. You also can participate in the mission work through this quarter's 13th Sabbath offering, part of which will help open a recreation centre where children can grow spiritually, mentally, socially and physically in Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia. You can read more about Joanne next week.
And remember, God is always faithful.